Okay, here we go. Welcome to your Tuesday morning yoga on, I believe it's November 17th, 2020. The cool day outside, but we're gonna get warmed up inside. So if you have your mat out, you can get on your mat. Lay down on your back. We're gonna begin on our backs. You could spread out on your back and take up lots of space, maybe spread out arms and legs, even have them out to the side and, make yourself like a big pentacle. Or perhaps hold on, I want to pin my video here. Perhaps you want to bend your knees, place your feet about mat width apart, and then allow your knees to relax inward and rest against each other. This is just a little more supportive for the lower back. In either position, you could plant your feet for a second and just slightly lift your hips off the mat and then settle them back down onto the mat. Sometimes lower backs are a little touchy, especially when we lay down on a harder surface. And once you've found a position that's working for you today, you can begin to focus in on how you're feeling at this moment in time. And let's take some control and start with our breath first. So take a nice deep inhale in through your nose, and then you can sigh it out. Sigh it out as loud and exaggerated as you want. Nobody's there to watch you. You can do whatever you want. So inhale. Exhale, let it all go. Feel effort and tension and muscle tone, all of it just becoming soft as you exhale. One more time. Sighing it out. It's just like hitting the reset button. When you have to unplug your computer and wait 10 seconds and plug it back in. That's what we're doing right now. For the next hour, we're going to unplug and allow ourselves to reset. So you can begin to focus in on your breathing, and just for nice, steady inhale through the nose, exhale through the nose. You could go to the count of 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Just get your breath flowing nice and smoothly. It doesn't have to be the exact pace I set. It could be faster or slower, whatever works for you, as long as it's feeling natural and sustainable. And once you've started generating that breath, you can just close your eyes or soften your eyelids and take a quick scan of what's going on in your body. So just checking in first with the toes, noticing how they're feeling, maybe giving them a little wiggle, and then moving up to the ankles, perhaps taking little ankle circles, moving up to the knees if your knees are bent, or even if they're out long, you might just contract and extend your knees a little bit. Just flex and extend your knees just a little bit. And traveling up the thighs into the hips. You can just wiggle your hips on your mat. Just rock, just a tiny little rocking motion. Traveling up the spine, feeling it nice and long against your mat. Noticing the rise and fall of your chest as you effortlessly breathe, pushing the shoulders down away from the ears. Arms are long and relaxed. Check in with the wrists, maybe give them a little turn. Could wiggle your fingers. Imagining that you're releasing energy. You could even ball your fingers up into a fist and hold it tight for just a second and then release. Check in with the throat. You could clear your throat or swallow, releasing tension. Notice how your jaw is feeling. If your jaw is clenched, try and separate the biting surfaces of your teeth and just relax. You could even open your mouth really wide for lion pose. Even stick your tongue out. Remember, nobody's watching. Relax your forehead. You have so many muscles in your face, but right now none of them are working. So your forehead is nice and relaxed. Even the top of your head feels relaxed. And tuning back into the breath again, just make sure it's still nice and fluid. Moving back and forth effortlessly. And when you're feeling good, you can begin to take small motion. So you might want to turn wrists and ankles a few more times. You might want to reach overhead and get long, maybe intertwine the fingers and press the palms upward. Whatever feels good for you. And then when you're ready, I'd like you, while you're still on your back, to hug your knees up towards your chest. And if you can, make room and bring your right knee toward your right armpit and your left knee toward your left armpit. Just bring the knees in that direction. Rock a little bit on your lower back. So just a little gentle side to side motion. And then coming onto your back, nice and still, and attempt to squeeze your head up toward your knees. Imagine you could bring your forehead right up to your knees. I don't think I can do that, but we're imagining that we can. Squeezing in tiny, like a little acorn. And then relax back down on your mat and do the opposite. Spread out. Arms and legs can go straight in a long line like you're a piece of spaghetti, or maybe you want to spread them out to the side like you're a pentacle. And then when you're feeling ready, gently roll over onto your right hand side and bring yourself up to a comfortable seated position on your mat. I'm going to go to my mat now. So it's up to you whether you would prefer to sit with your legs extended in front of you, or if you prefer, you could do a cross-legged pose. It's called easy pose, but for a lot of people, it's actually not easy. So if you feel better with your legs extended outward, definitely go ahead and take that modification. So as always, when we come into sitting, I think it's really important to just think about sitting up nice and tall. It's very easy to slouch like this and round the lower back. So we're going to focus on engaging the core, pulling the chest forward, shoulders are down. Imagining there's a string at the top of your head. You're like Pinocchio, and someone's pulling straight up on that string, and your vertebrae are making almost more space as your spine gets longer. You can rest your hands on your lap, and then we'll dip our chin down to our chest and slowly begin to take head circles, whichever direction feels good to you first. Move really slowly. Nice, smooth breath as you're moving. If you're feeling a little bit of tenderness or stickiness anywhere, just note that. Maybe spend a little extra time there working it out. And when you're feeling good on that side, you can begin to take head circles on the other side. So again, drop the chin to the chest and then take slow movement. Again, noticing anywhere where you feel like you might benefit from a little extra attention, going nice and slow. And you can bring your head back up to center. With your right hand, I want you to reach up and then over your head. You're going to bring your right fingertips or your right palm onto your left ear, and then use the weight of that hand to gently pull your head over to the right. You're not really pulling. I shouldn't say that. Just use the weight of your hand to give you some traction. So the left side of your neck is getting very long. Remembering to breathe. And you can release, head comes back up, right hand comes down, left arm up and over, placing the left hand on the right ear, using the weight of that hand to draw the head over toward the left. Let the right side of your neck get really long. Nice deep breaths. And you can release. You can bring your right hand down to the mat beside you. You're right on your fingertips. Walk that right hand out to the side. Arc the left arm up and over. The left hand is reaching toward the right side of the room, getting really long through the left side of your rib cage. Breathe into that side. Make more room between your ribs. If you wanted to go a little deeper, you could walk your right hand out further. You could even come onto the right forearm, but not necessary. If you're happy where you are, stay there. One more deep breath. And exhale, come up to sit. This time the left fingertips come down, walk them out to the side. Right arm arcs up and over, reaching to the left side of the room, making lots of room on the right side of the rib cage. Breathing deep. Make sure your head and neck are very relaxed here. Feel that breath expanding your rib cage. And you can come back up to sit. We'll bring the left hand to the right knee. Right hand is going to extend out behind you, almost like it's a tail, an extension of your spine. Inhale, think about getting long. Exhale, twist to the right. Try not to lead with the head and neck. Just let them remain very relaxed. I would like you to feel the twist coming right from the base of your spine. With each exhale, see if you can relax into this twist a little bit more. Like you're becoming warm goo, and you can be twisted like a piece of candy. And release. Bring the right hand to the left knee. Left hand extends behind. Again, inhale, get tall. Exhale, twist toward the left. Make sure the head is not leading. Relax the head and neck. Feel the twist coming from the base of the spine. And release. We're going to come into just a little gentle forward fold. So you could come into this with your legs crossed, or if you prefer and your legs are already stretched out, just bring your hands down to either side of you. Peel your toes actively back if your legs are extended out. And then walk your hands forward. Bow your torso down. Come into a gentle forward fold. I don't want you to really make this extreme. I just want it to be a gentle hello to your hamstrings. So even more than coming down, I want you to focus on peeling the toes back toward yourself. And come back up to sit. If you had your legs crossed, you can uncross them at this point. We're all going to rock back onto our tailbone. You're going to bend your knees and bring your shins parallel to the ground. So we're lifting the shins up. They should be parallel toward the ground. You can keep your hands down on your fingertips for balance, or if you'd like to try balancing, you could bring your hands up. So your arms are extended straight, your hands are really active, coming into boat pose. Engage your core muscles. Make sure your chest is broad and relaxed. Try not to dip the head down. Keep it looking forward and up. Big breaths here. This is so good for the abdominal strength. 2 more big breaths. And you can bring your legs down. If you had them crossed, cross them the other way. If you prefer your legs stretched out, we're going to come back into that forward fold. So peel your toes back toward you. And again, walk your hands forward, bow your torso over your legs. Just noticing that little sensation in the hamstrings. It could be all the way up your legs and even into the lower back. And we'll gently come upright. And then we're going to come onto our hands and knees. So bring your legs around the side. And we'll all meet up on our mat in table pose. So hands are going to come directly below your shoulders. Knees are going to come beneath your hips. I want you to scoop your belly in so that your lower back is flattened out. There's no dip in your lower back yet. It's just very flat so that you could be, in fact, used as a table. We'll start our cats and cows. So for cow, dip your belly down, hips rise up, head looks forward, and if you have the mobility, you can look up, but if it's not feeling good, don't worry about the looking up part. It's more important that your neck is long. Exhale, reverse the motion. Push up between the shoulder blades, drop the head down, bring the hips down. Really pushing up between the shoulder blades, really rounding the upper back. Inhale, belly comes down, head and hips come up. Exhale, reverse the motion, coming back through to cat, really rounding the spine. Inhale for cow. Exhale for cat. Take 3 more rounds of cat and cow with your own breath. If you like, you could add in some lateral motion, so maybe looking back towards your toes, or just doing some hip circles, some wiggling, freestyle it, do what feels right. Or if you're just happy with basic cat and cow, you can just stick with that. And once you've finished your round of cat and cow, just come back into a neutral tabletop position. I'm going to, again, review a modification that we can take instead of downward facing dog. And I'm going to add a little bit to it this week. So if you're not feeling into downward facing dog, the first thing we can do is bring our hands, let's say about a foot ahead of where they would normally be. So ahead of our shoulders. And then open your chest toward the ground, bending the knees more. The hips are going to come back toward the heels, but they're not coming down onto the heels. So this is your first step in the downward dog modification. If that's feeling good, bring your hips up slightly, turn your toes under, and then bring your hips back again. Open your heart toward the ground. Again, your hips are not going to come onto your heels. There's space there, but the toes are turned under. So maybe you're getting a little stretch in the feet as well in this modification. You can come back up a little, bring those hips back up a little. Actually, bring them all the way up again. And one more thing you can do as a modification for downward facing dog, bring your hands back underneath your shoulders. Your toes are still curled under. I want you to lift your knees just a little bit off the mat. So you're going to engage your core really strongly and just slightly lift the knees up. The weight is on your toes, really engaging. Breathe deep. And you can release the knees back down. And then from there, bring the hands forward a little bit. Bring the hips back toward the heels, but not on the heels. And opening the chest toward the ground for your modified downward facing dog. If you'd like to take the full downward facing dog, keep those toes turned under, push your hips up and back into the air. So if you're coming into the standing downward facing dog, bend the knees deeply, pedal out the legs. If you're in the kneeling version, you could experiment with bringing your hips a little further back and deepening that foot stretch. No matter where you are, keep your breath nice and steady. Big inhales, sigh it out. One more time. Sigh it out. No matter which version of downward dog you're in, we're going to come up to the top of our mat. So in a way that works for you, come onto your feet and walk your feet up toward the top of your mat. And then slowly roll up to stand. So we're going to meet in mountain pose at the top of the mat. When we come into mountain, we're going to check our foundation first. So feet are narrow hip width apart underneath us. Abdomen is engaged and strong. Like if some jerk walked up to you and sucker punched you, it would hurt your fist because your abdomen is engaged. Shoulders are down and away. Hands are relaxed down at your side. Chin is slightly elevated. Feeling yourself really strong here. Just taking a moment, I want you to play with your weight distribution on your feet. So standing here, I want you to gently bring the majority of weight onto the balls of your feet. Just noticing how that feels. It shouldn't be enough to bring you off balance, but we're just noticing where our weight is. And then bring your weight back to its normal distribution. And then I want you to send your weight a little bit backwards until the weight is more in your heels. Again, not enough to totally undermine your balance, but just noticing that. And then come back to the sweet spot. Come back to the place where your weight distribution feels exactly where it should be. And usually it's a pretty even distribution all the way through the foot. And it feels like it's centered around the arch of the foot. Inhale your arms up, overhead. Hands can come to touch overhead, slightly forward. You don't have to bring them straight up. Your hands are slightly forward of your head. You might look up toward your fingers. Exhale, soft knees, bend all the way down. We're going to come all the way down into a forward fold. Bring your hands onto your shins. Inhale, come halfway up. Exhale, forward fold. We're going to do that a few times. Inhale, halfway up to flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, coming up to flat back. Exhale, forward fold. You're going to hang over your legs now, coming into ragdoll. You could let your arms just relax down, or if you prefer, cradle one arm and the other. Let your head and neck be very relaxed. You're just hanging down. Your knees are soft, but again, there's engagement in the hamstrings here. And you could add in some gentle motions. So you could sway gently in the breeze. Maybe add a little bit of bounce. Saying hello to those hamstrings, just giving them some gentle, encouraging movement to lengthen. And then come back to center. You can release your arms. Make sure there's a bend in the knees. Slowly roll all the way up to stand at the top of your mat. Inhale, arms come overhead. Maybe looking up at the palms. Exhale, forward fold all the way down. Fingertips come down to the mat. Plant your hands, really bend your knees. Step your right leg back and then your left leg back, and then lower onto your knees. Uncurl the toes. So there's a nice long diagonal line from your shoulders all the way back to your hips. Your abdomen again is engaged and your bum is tucked down. So you squeeze your bum in. So if your bum's relaxed, just try and squeeze it in. Helps make your body a straighter plank. Take an inhale here. Exhale, bring the knees in, squeeze them into your side. Lower as slowly as you can down. Lower, slow, 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 slow. Finally coming all the way down onto your mat. If you have to wiggle back a little bit like I do that. So hands are underneath your shoulders. Your forehead is going to come down onto the mat. I'm not putting my forehead down just so I can be heard. Take an inhale. On your inhale, head rises up. Bring up the neck and shoulders, coming up into cobra. Don't use your hands to assist. Try and get all the lift coming from your lower back. Exhale, release your forehead back to the mat. We'll do 2 more rounds of cobra. Inhale, head, neck, and chest rise. Exhale, bring the head back down. One more time. Inhale, head, neck, and chest up. And exhale, forehead comes down. I want you to bring your forearms where your hands are now. So we're going to come onto our forearms. Your elbows are directly beneath your shoulders and your hands are out in front of you. Your hands are very active and powerful here. Coming up into Sphinx. Make your chest broad. Your head is rising up, just like that Sphinx at the pyramids in Giza. It's a nice extension for the lower back. If it's feeling like you've taken on a bit much, you can just lower your chest a little bit. If you're a real sensation junkie like me and you want to go deeper, you can push into your hands. Just find a position that works for you. Breathe into it and allow this big extension for the lower back. One more breath. And exhale, we're going to bring our hands underneath our head. Bring your forehead down onto your hands. Elbows go out to the side. So forehead comes down on your hands. Bend at the knees so your feet are coming up, and then just gently rock your legs back and forth, windshield wipering back and forth. We just did some serious work for the lower back, so just want to give it a little release. You can bring your legs long again, Hands plant underneath your shoulders again. We're going to come back up into that diagonal push-up position. And then your choice. You could come up to downward facing dog. Either way, you're going to turn your toes under, open your chest toward the ground if you're taking the kneeling modification of downward facing dog. Let your head relax. If you're coming into the standing version, push your hips up and back. If you're kneeling, play around with bringing your hips back over those curled under toes and just increasing the sensation in your feet. If you're on your feet, pedal those legs out. No matter where you are, nice big breaths. You can take the option to sigh it out. We're all going to come up to meet at the top of the mat. So come onto your feet in a way that makes sense for you. And walk to the top of your mat. Come up to stand. We're going to come into warrior two. So you can bring your hands to your hips. We're going to step the right foot a long way back toward the back of the mat. The right foot is going to come parallel with the back edge of your mat. Your left toes are pointing straight forward at the front of your mat. Your left heel should line up with your right instep, so they're in one line. Your left arm is going to come forward at shoulder height. Right arm comes straight back at shoulder height. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, lunge into the left knee. If you feel that your knee is coming out over your ankle, just sneak that ankle forward just a little bit. Breathe deep. Really press down into the left big toe. Open that left knee out. Try not to let it collapse in. Opening it outward. Big breaths here. Powerful warrior two pose. Inhale, the back arm forward, so your right arm comes forward. Exhale, draw it back like you're doing archery. Inhale that back arm forward. Exhale, draw it back. 2 more times. Inhale it forward. Exhale it back. 1 more. Inhale it forward. Exhale it back. You can gently straighten the left leg. It doesn't have to come all the way straight. In fact, I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to lock your leg straight. But just rising up with your left arm, reach as far forward as you think you can, and then rotate your left hand down. It could come onto your left shin, or your left thigh rather, your left shin, or even down to the floor. I should have cued a block here. If you have a block and you want to bring the block under your hand, you could also do that. The right arm is pointing straight up toward the ceiling. Make sure that your palm is turned forward so that you're not jamming your shoulder. So if your palm is anywhere else, rotate it forward. Coming into triangle, nice big breaths here. If you want to test your balance, you could turn your head and look up toward your fingers, your right hand rather, but you don't have to. Just an option. 1 more big breath. Exhale, you're going to relax the left leg. Bring a deep bend into that left leg. Both hands are going to come down to the mat. Turn onto your back toes and rotate that right foot so that it's facing forward. We're going to come onto the knee. So if you would like extra padding, grab the right side of your mat and then lower your knee down onto it. Bring your hands onto your left thigh and uncurl your right toes. So coming up so that your torso is straight up over your hips. We're going to come into a lunge. If you know that you would like the assistance of a block here, just bring the block to the inside of your left instep. So starting nice and tall. Make sure that your knee is well behind your ankle. So if your ankle is directly under your knee, just sneak that left ankle forward. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, sink your hips forward and down toward the ground. You could keep your hands on the left thigh, or you could bring them down to the ground or to that block. If you are bringing your arms down, make sure that your left arm comes around the inside of the left knee. Because if you try and bring it down on the outside, you're going to run into your knee. So bring that left arm through the inside, coming down, entering a really big hip opener here. So keep your breath moving. Imagine that you can breathe all the way down into your hips. I know you don't have lungs down there, but just imagine you do. If at any point this is feeling like a little much, back your hips out about halfway. And then on your next exhale, bring your hips back forward and down. Maybe they come a little less down because you were a little uncomfortable before, or maybe they can come a little further down. In any event, bring the hips back forward and down. Head and neck are relaxed. Make sure your face is relaxed. One more deep breath. Exhale, draw your hips back. You can bring your hands down to the mat. Draw the left leg back by the right. We'll just set the block off to this side. Actually, set it off to the left side. Bring your knees about mat width apart. Your hips are back on your heels. Bring your torso down, just coming into a child's pose. So let your forehead come down to the mat. Again, I'm not doing that just so I can be heard. Take a couple of deep breaths here. Let all the effort of those big poses go. Setting ourselves up for the other side. So when you're feeling ready, you can come back up onto hands and knees and then onto your feet. Or if you want to come through downward facing dog, the hips come up and back. No matter where you are, we're going to come up onto our feet at the top of the mat, standing up nice and straight. Again, abdomen is engaged, shoulders are broad. Inhale your arms up overhead, maybe gazing toward the fingertips. Exhale, forward fold, nice soft knees. Inhale, come halfway up. Exhale, forward fold. Bring the hands down to the mat again. Step both feet to the back of the mat. Lower onto the knees. Uncurl the toes. Exhale, lower the torso all the way down. Inhale, head, neck, and chest come up. Exhale, forehead comes down. Push back up onto the knees. And again, yogi's choice. You could come into the kneeling downward facing dog or the full downward facing dog. Stay here for a breath. And then in a way that makes sense for you, come onto your feet and roll up to stand at the top of the mat. You can bring your hands to your hips. We're going to come into warrior two with the right leg leading this time. So step the left leg back. The left edge of your foot is parallel with the back edge of your mat. Your right toes are pointing directly forward. Make sure that your right ankle is ahead of your right knee so you have room to lunge. Right arm comes straight forward, shoulder height. Left arm comes directly back. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, lunge down into that right leg. See if you can get that right thigh parallel to the ground. We'll inhale the left arm forward. Exhale, draw it back like an archer. Inhale it forward. Exhale, draw it back. Inhale forward. Exhale, draw back. One more time. Inhale forward. Exhale, draw back. Rise up in the right leg. So don't bring it completely straight, but definitely rise up. Reach as far forward with the right arm as you can. Rotate, the right hand could come to the thigh or the shin or onto a block. You're coming into triangle pose. Left arm is straight up overhead. Remember to rotate the palm forward. So if your palm is facing backward, you're gonna close off your shoulder mobility. So rotate that palm forward. Breathe deep. If you wanted to add a little challenge, you might be able to look up toward your fingertips, but not necessary. One more deep breath. Exhale, big bend in the right leg. Bringing both hands to the mat, turn onto the left toes. If you know you want extra padding underneath the left knee, bend your mat over now. Bring your right knee down. Uncurl the left toes. You can bring your hands up onto the right shin so your torso comes upright over your hips. If you know you want to block, bring your block to your right instep now. So getting nice and tall to prepare. Exhale, bring the hips forward and down. If your right knee is jutting out over your right ankle like mine is, sneak that right ankle forward. If you like, you could bring your arms inside the right leg. So make sure the right arm is inside your right leg. Bring the hands down to the ground or on a block. Letting the hips just sink in. Gravity is helping us here. Big hip opener, so breathe deep. On your next exhale, back your hips out about halfway. So bringing them back toward the left ankle. Just staying for a breath here. And then exhale, bring the hips forward and down again. And just seeing if that makes any difference. Sometimes backing halfway out can help us find a little greater range of movement. One more deep breath. Exhale, bring those hips back again. Right leg can come back by your left. Set your block off to your side. If your mat was folded, just organize your mat. This time we're going to keep our knees close together. Hips are back on the heels. Walk your hands forward. Bring your forehead down to the mat for downward facing dog. If you would like a variation, you could place your elbows on the mat. Bring your hands into prayer and then bring them to the back of your head. Just give you a little arm stretch. Again, my head isn't down because I'm trying to narrate. When you're feeling ready, we're all going to come back up onto our feet on the mat. So choose the route that makes the most sense for you. Could come onto hands and knees and come up, or come through downward facing dog and then coming up to the top of your mat. We're going to come into a balancing pose. So if you know you'd like the assistance of a piece of furniture or a wall in your home, you can put yourself there now. While we're setting up to balance, we're going to make sure that our feet are narrow hip width apart. Abdomen is engaged. You can bring one or both hands onto your hips. You might have one on a support. Transfer your weight all the way over into that right foot first. Come onto the left toes. Before you go anywhere, make sure your gaze is trained on a non-moving point a few meters ahead of you. Inhale the left leg up. Exhale it out to the side. Plant that left foot. It could come to the shin or the ankle, or you could even keep your toes down. Hands can come to heart center. Keep your abdomen engaged. You're squeezing your belly. You're squeezing your buttocks. It's like everything is being squeezed up and in. It helps make your tree stronger. And when you're feeling ready, grow your tree. It might look different today than it's ever looked before. It might sway a little in the breeze, and that's fine. If you fall out, just calmly get back in again. If your hands are up, you can bring them back to your heart center, down to the hips. Inhale the left leg up, slowly with control. Lower it down to the mat. Good work. Shake out that standing leg, got the circulation going. Setting up for standing on the left leg. So feet are narrow hip width apart. Transfer the weight over the left foot, coming onto the right toes. Fix your gaze on that non-moving point. Inhale the right knee up. Exhale the leg out to the side. Plant the right foot, shin, ankle, or toes down. Squeeze the bum, squeeze the abdomen. Hands can come to heart center. And if you're feeling it, grow your tree on this side. Again, not getting discouraged if you're swaying or your balance isn't great today. We all have our days when the balance is tricky. And hands, if they were up, can come through heart center. Back to the hips. Inhale the right leg up. Exhale, lower it down with control. We're going to come back down onto the mat, coming into a squat. So a few options. You can come into your squat from standing. Sorry, my cat is clawing the chair that... Hey, cat, you... Sorry. Cat was clawing the chair. It was really interfering. Okay, so if you're coming in from standing, your feet are a little wider than hip width apart, and your toes are pointed out on a 45-degree angle, and you're going to come into squat from here. If you want to come into the seat before you come into squat, you can bring your hips down onto a block or even directly down onto your mat now. So if you're coming down from standing, you can slowly start to come down now. If you're already going to start from seated, just bring the outside of your arms toward your the inside of your knees, just to provide a little gentle encouragement for the hips to open. Hands can come to heart center. Again, that'll give a little more encouragement for the hips to open. If that's not working for you, you could just use your hands, the weight of your hands, to gently encourage the knees and hips. Wherever you are, try and relax into it and find some stillness. You can relax your face, you can close your eyes. Tune back into your breath. Notice how it's flowing. If your breath has become a little bit labored or too short, or you've just lost your rhythm a little bit, try and smooth it out. Make it even and steady. Three more slow breaths. When you've finished your breath, if you're on your feet, bring your hips down to the floor. If you're on the block, just pop that out from under you And if you're already seated, you can plant your feet in front of you. You could have your knees slightly apart, or if you like, you could bring the knees together, bringing the torso down onto the knees. Maybe you wrap the arms underneath your thighs, whatever makes sense for you. Let your head relax forward and down. So coming into a restorative forward fold. If the arms wrapping isn't working for you, your arms could just rest down on the mat. If that's feeling good, stay exactly as you are. If you'd like to take it a little deeper, extend your legs straight in front of you. Again, peel those toes back, coming into a forward fold. Maybe you come a little deeper than you did at the beginning of class. In fact, I guarantee you can probably get a little deeper because you've warmed up now. No matter where you are, just keep that breath moving. Allow yourself to just sit with the sensation. One more breath. You can slowly roll back up, sitting up. No matter which position you are in, we're now going to bring our feet together and our knees are going to come out to the side. So you're making a big diamond shape with your legs. Don't bring your heels too far toward your groin. Leave lots of space there. Inhale, sit up nice and tall. Exhale, bring the torso forward. You could use the hands to encourage the knees open, or you could take a hold by your feet or ankles and continue to come down. Should be a big sensation right in the outside of the hip. If this isn't working for you, then just come up a little bit. Maybe the knees have to stay a little bit higher, but perhaps your torso can still come forward a little bit. Find the range of movement that works in your body. And you can come back up to sit, plant your feet on the mat again with your hands down or holding one arm in the other. Just rock your knees back and forth, sort of also rocking your hips a little bit. So, I'm not even sure what exactly to call this motion, but if you're having trouble with the balance, the fingertips can come back to the ground. Just gives a little nice outer hip massage. If you're sideways on your mat, bring yourself lengthwise. And then you could either take a hold of your knees or just extend your hands out. We're going to slowly roll down onto the back as slowly as possible. So take an inhale. On your exhale, see how slowly you can lower onto your back. Engage the core muscles. Try and hold it for as long as you can. Slowly coming down and then all the way down to onto the mat. If you need to adjust your position on the mat, do that now. Make sure your head is on the mat. So feet are planted narrow hip width apart. Bring them up toward your bum a little bit. Hands are going to be planted down on the mat beside you. We're going to do a few rounds of bridge. So we'll inhale to prepare. Exhale, push your hips up toward the sky. Hands and feet are pressing down actively into the mat. The harder your feet press in, the higher your hips can go. Big breath here. One more breath. Exhale, hips come back down to the ground. Windshield wiper the knees gently back and forth. Make it a nice slow motion. We're going to come into a second rounded bridge. So prepare yourself again, hands by the hips. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, push those hips skyward. This time, if you wanted to, and your shoulders, you're feeling open to this, you could roll your shoulders under, clasp your fingertips, or sorry, your fingers behind your back, and press your arms into the mat, seeing if you can get your hips a little higher. If that doesn't work for you, just bring the hands back down to the mat. Push hands and feet actively in the mat, breathing deep. See if you can push your hips just a little higher, and then exhale the hips down to the mat again. Gently windshield wiper the legs back and forth. One last time. Plant the hands by your hips. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, push the hips skyward. Nice and strong. Put all your strength into it. One more breath. Exhale, hips come down. Gently windshield wiper your legs. Bring your knees upward. Hands can come out to your side. So your arms rather coming out to your side, making a T shape. Shift your hips slightly to the left. Relax your knees all the way over to the right. So your legs aren't crossed this time. We're just doing a little bit more of a relaxed supine twist. Your head can stay at center. If you did want to take it a bit further, you could look over your left shoulder, but again, not strictly necessary. Try and let your body soften with each exhale, letting yourself relax into the twist, letting gravity help. And on your next inhale, slowly bring the knees back upward. This time, bring your hips to your center and then just slightly shift them over to the right. Both knees relax over to the left. Again, you can stay exactly like this, or if you wanted to go a little deeper, you could turn your head to look over your right shoulder. But again, not strictly necessary. And gently bring the knees upward. Make sure your hips are placed back at center. Hug your knees toward your chest. You could come into just this hugging motion, or if you like, you could bring your arms through the inside of your knees, take a hold of the outsides of your feet and pull your feet toward the ceiling for happy baby. Whichever variation, just rock a little bit on your lower back. Give yourself a little back massage. If there are any other movements you would like to take at this point, perhaps you'd like to take a big stretch, or maybe you even just want to reach for a sweater or a blanket, take a drink of water, whatever you need, attend to those needs now, and then make yourself comfortable for your Shavasana. So you could spread out on your mat lying flat, or if you prefer, bring your feet to the outsides of your mat, so your feet are mat width apart. Relax your knees in towards each other, allowing them to support each other. Lift your hips just a fraction of an inch off the mat, and then settle your hips back down so they're nice and comfy. Your hands could be by your side, or you could rest them on the belly, which is really nice to help us tune into our breath. Or you could even bring your left hand over your heart, your right hand on your belly. Noticing your pulse, noticing how your breath feels. Whichever position you choose, take a big breath, exhale it out. Let all the effort from your practice go. Allow your muscles to relax. Let your practice breath go. You can just breathe naturally now. Take another deep breath. Sigh it out, and then just breathe as you normally would. Allow yourself to completely relax, absorbing the benefits of your practice. For the next few minutes, I just want you to turn your attention inward on yourself and how you're feeling at this moment in time. Everything else can wait. Enjoy your rest. You can begin bringing your awareness back into your body, back into where you are in space and time. Take a few nice deep breaths. If you'd like, you could take some small movement, stretching long, whatever feels good. And when you're ready, roll over onto your right side. Bring yourself up to sit, or if you prefer, you can stay lying down. That's fine. I will leave you with a final thought, which I believe is from Carrie Fisher on forgiveness. Living life without forgiveness is like drinking poison, expecting the other person to die. Being able to forgive means you're also able to move forward. Thank you for practicing with me today. Namaste.